All right, I'm going to get started. I had a bad power supply on that, so I had to put in a new power supply. Now, if you remember from yesterday, because this is just, first we're just going to do a very quick little review, that I mentioned to you that there are really 3 different kinds of files, whatever you want to call them, modules, I guess, that you can bring in to a Node.js program. We looked at one of them yesterday. The one that we looked at were the core modules. So we looked at HTTP, we looked at path, we looked at file, we looked at OS, we looked at URL. I think that's enough of that. All right. But the point is, to bring them into our program, we made constants for each one of them. And we call them the same name as the module that we were bringing in, because again, that's the convention. You don't have to do that. I mean, we could have, this right here could be anything we wanted it to be. But if we changed it from HTTP there, we'd have to change it here as well. All right, and anywhere else that we use there, we're using it. All right. We also looked at this for the port, because that's kind of a standard way to set up the port. All right. So today we're going to look at a different kind of module, and that is one that we will actually go out and grab from NPM, the Node Package Manager. Now, so I don't screw this up, I'm going to copy that line, and what I'd like you to do, I want you to keep that first one that we did, that Node example, just so you've got something. If you do have to go back and take a look at it, you may never have to go back and take a look at it, which is just fine. All right. But what I'd like us to do is create a new folder on our desktop or wherever you create folders. All right. And I'm going to just call this just Node 2. All right. It doesn't really matter what you call it. All right. And I'm going to close the one that I had open. All right. And I'm just going to open up Node 2. I'm not even adding anything to it right now, okay? There's nothing added to it yet. So it's just an empty folder, and I'm going to open it with code. All right, so this is about as bare bones of a Node project as you can get, because there's really nothing in it. All right, so let's start to add some stuff into it. The first thing that we're going to do, if you would please, is to click on here, and for our new file, it doesn't matter. Today let's just call it app.js. Usually you call it app.js or you call it server.js. Some people still call it index.js, which is okay to do. All right. Now, like we did yesterday, I'm going to come in here, and this is my one from yesterday. So I'm going to clear this. In fact, I don't even want this anymore. I'm just going to open up a new one here. So if you would please open up a new window, either open up a new terminal right in your Visual Studio or do a git bash here. It doesn't matter. All right, I'm just doing it here because, again, I think it's easier for you to see and for us to work on it this way. Like we did yesterday, we're going to first come in here. And when we look right here, right now, again, all that's in there is our app.js. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do another npm init. It's just something that you should get used to doing. So npm init and hit enter. Node 2 is fine unless you called yours something else. The version is fine. The description, second node.js example. Again, it really doesn't matter. You're not turning this in just like yesterday. All right, the entry point is app.js, which is fine. And the test command, we're not putting anything there. No Git repository. I hope we get to either tomorrow or Thursday where we're going to actually build something and we're going to have a Git repository for it. Okay. Keywords, no. Author, sure. And for the license, I'll just change it to MIT. And again, you can see the package.json file that was built for us. Okay? All right. Is this okay? Yes, so I'm just going to hit enter. There, so there's the file. I can bring it up, but there's really no need to do that. Okay, so we have that. Now, what we did yesterday too, and we're going to do it again today. Hopefully you remember this from yesterday. We're going to type in nodemon. In fact, try it again. npm I nodemon. And we want to create this one as what's called, again, a development dependency. All right. Right now, we have no dependencies because they go down here in our actual package.json file. So we're saying npm I, all right, nodemon, and then we're going to put on the end of this minus capital D. If you don't do that, then it's not a development dependency. It becomes a server or like a program dependency. We don't want that. All right, so it's npm I. In the order in which you put this stuff, you must put npm first. But you can say npm I nodemon minus D like we've got it. You can put npm minus D I nodemon. That stuff typically doesn't matter. All right, and you'll see that as soon as I do this, move that up a little bit. Well, I guess it's not going to let me move it up a little bit. But once I hit enter, it's going to start doing some junk down here eventually. At least it should, because I didn't put anything in there that was wrong. All right. But now, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to talk about it in a little bit more depth right now. So notice by putting that in, the npm I nodemon minus D, I don't care about this stuff, but it says it created this package lock.json file that we're going to look at in just a minute. But notice what it also says here. Added 119 packages from 53 contributors and audited 120 packages, etc. 11 packages are oh boy, that's a lot of junk, right? Well, what it did, amongst other things, is it created this folder here called Node Modules. All right? And in that folder that's called Node Modules, right now, there's some stuff in there, but there's not a lot of stuff in there. Believe it or not, there's not a lot. All right, we're going to have even more in there in just a minute. All right, but what I want you to understand in just a second, we're going to actually remove that Node Modules folder, and we're going to rebuild it by letting the system rebuild it for us. What I just said may make no sense whatsoever. So let me show you. Again, come down here. And for the first time, we're going to go and we're going to add not a core module, but we're going to add an npm module. Go with me? So we're going to add an npm module. Now, don't type this in because I just want to show you something. It used to be you had to type in this, npm I express, and you had to say minus save. And what that did was it saved what you were working on to your project, all right? And it made it one of those project dependencies. But since Node version 5, and we're on 14 something, but since then, you get this as default, as a default. So all you have to type in is npm I express. So I'd like you to type that in, please, right now. Hit enter. And again, it's going to add a bunch of stuff. All right, 56 packages, it says there, from 37 contributors. Now, I should have shown you this before, but I didn't, and it's not really going to matter. But if you look on the screen, one of the things that's in here now in this Node Modules file is Express. That wasn't in there before. One of the things that was in there from the first one we did was NodeMod. But this is getting really, really, really big now, because not only does it bring in those two packages, but any dependencies that those packages have on other packages are automatically brought in. And I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense or doesn't make sense, but if I go out here to Node 2 and I right mouse click on this Node Modules and I click Properties, it's now almost 4 meg, just that file. All right. And what I want to show you is when we end up pushing this out to the internet, we don't push that file. All right, because otherwise it adds an extra 4 meg of bloat that we don't need. And if you say, I get it or I don't get it, I want to make sure you do, so we're going to do this. What I'd like you to do is back here, all right, I'm going to close this. Whoops, I'm going to, wherever it is, it's up here. I'm going to close the node modules folder, all right, and I'm going to remove it. We're purposely going to remove it. I'd like you to do the same. So highlight it, right mouse click, and just choose delete. It says, are you sure? Yep, move it to the recycle bin. Well, our program just got a lot smaller. The problem is, for example, right now, if we wanted to use Express, we'd get an error message because it can't find it. Does that make sense to everybody? So I want to show you how you can bring it back, all right? And that is, we've got to come down here. And what I want you to do, if you would please, you can type in the command, but maybe you can just watch me do it first because I want you to watch how that folder is going to appear again. All right, so all I have to type in is npm install, and probably I would work too. All right, but what that is going to do, notice my node modules is back. All right, and if I go to my package.json file, what that does, after we remove the node modules file and we went back and typed in npm install, is it goes through our package.json and it finds any dependencies that you have and it automatically adds them to the program and any of their dependencies. All right, so I mean, who cares? All right, well, one thing you may or may not remember from the first semester, we looked at it maybe one day. All right, you can do this. You can do this right now, but I'm going to come up here and I'm going to, in my node, I don't want to be in any folder or anything else here, but in my node, I'm going to, in my node here, I'm going to create a new file, and I'd like you to do the same thing. We'll go and add, you can add that back in just a minute, but we're going to call this .git ignore. And what happens with that file is when you push stuff up to GitHub, anything that's in a git ignore file, it doesn't push. All right. Why is that important? Because what we put in here is node modules. So now it knows not to push that node modules folder up with our project. So I'm just going to do a file save, and I can close that file. We may end up adding something to it later. I don't think we will, but we might. So you probably haven't done that yet. So please type in npm install if you did remove the node modules folder so you can bring it back. Now, is everything I've shown you so far, does it make sense? At least a little bit? All right, I mean, we're just learning this stuff. So, you know, if you say, well, a little bit, that's about what I'd expect, okay? All right, so I cleared the screen. Now I want to look at this package lock JSON file. This file probably you'll never even open, just so you know. You'll probably never even open it. So why am I opening it? To show you what's in there, all right? And you'll look, when you look up on the screen here, notice when it shows this stuff, it's got a caret there, and there it has no caret, and there it has a tilde, and there it has another caret, etc. What it is showing you in this file is the versions of all the software that it is using. All right, that's what the package lock JSON does. And I saved something here. There it is. All right, this is called semantic versioning. All right, and the first number that you see there is a major version. All right, so in other words, if we went up from 8.2.6, let's say, to 8.2.7, that would be a patch fix. Does that make sense? If we went from 8.2.6 to 8.3.0, that'd be a minor version. And if we went from 8.2.6 to, let's say, 9.0.0, that would be a major version. All right? Now, when you come in here, and I'll have to go back and look at it because I've got it. I bet you I didn't save it. But these all mean something. Typically, what the caret means is use the newest version. Use the newest version that's available. All right. But again, as I said, these are called semantic versioning. All right. So I'm going to come in here, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in Node.js semantic versioning. All right, and about it in the docs, and it will start going through here, and somewhere in here, if it's not in this one, it'll be in another one, but it explains what each one of those symbols are. All right, and notice it says there's even a semverb package, how to use it. One of these is the one that I looked at before. Here, what is the caret for? By default, NPM prefixes a caret before the version number. All right, it indicates how NPM is to handle it. So these are the different characters that can come in here. The caret specifies we can update to a greater version. So in other words, right now in here, if we go back and we look right here, and I go into package.json, right now it is using this version of Express. If for some reason tomorrow version 5 would come out, it's saying that's okay to upgrade, even though that's a major version. All right. Now, sometimes you don't want that. All right. You want to use the other numbers that are in there. Boy, I wish I thought that I'd save that, but let's see. Versions are there. How does it work? I'll find it for tomorrow, but it's no big thing. What I'm telling you is each one of these things means something different. All right? And the only reason that I'm even bringing it up to you, and the only reason that I'm showing you that file is for completeness. Because, I mean, I remember when Keenan said to me, hey, I saw that file in there. What is that file doing? I mean, what is it? All right? And we never really talked about it. So I figured I'd talk about it with you. And you may or may not have realized this, but when you look, it's 1,400 lines long. But that's got to account for all those different packages that it's loading and all the dependency packages that it's loading. All right, so I'm just going to close that. All right, now what we have in here is we have Express. Okay, you can all see that, but I want to show you a couple things about Express. This, either watch on the screen or type it in yourselves. It doesn't really matter. It's no code. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in npmjs.com and I'm going to put in here Express. All right. Now, a couple things about this. First of all, usually when you do this, there might be several matches. All right. We're not going to use this one today, but fairly soon we're going to use Express handlebars. That's a part of Express. But we just want the top one, so I just want Express. Now notice what it says here. That's a pretty simple definition. All right? And the reason that it's fast, is it's got a lot of built-in stuff. And it's got a lot of built-in stuff designed to make your life a little bit easier, for lack of better words. The key word in there is unopinionated, because I'm going to show you ways of doing something today, and you could have somebody else who would come in here and could show you the exact same stuff and could do almost everything in different ways. And virtually everything that you do in this language, you can do in multiple ways. I'm not even going to say, hey, the ones I'm showing you are always the best. No, not necessarily. But let's look at a couple more things here. First, you'll notice 17 million downloads over the last week. So you know it's popular. All right. That also says not only is it popular, but it must be pretty solid as far as it's not going to break. It's not going to have bad stuff in it, etc. All right. Next, you'll notice what they have in here is they actually show you how to use this. All right. So this is what we're going to do in a couple minutes. Don't worry about putting that code in right now. It's okay. But what it means is, since Express is something like we did before, but it's not a core module, you still have to include it like we did those core modules. So you say const express equal require express, just like we said, const path equal require path, etc. All right. Then you do this, and it looks a little weird. I don't know why the word new isn't in there, but you're creating a new instance of express, for lack of better words, and you're calling it app. Again, there's nothing magical about the word app. That's just the word everybody uses. All right. And this is how we'll look at it. Now, notice what's missing from here from what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we had to say http.createServer, etc. We don't have to do that with this. All right. We still tell it to listen. We give it a port number. We still could come up here and put in a thing for a port, etc. But I just wanted you to see that. All right. And they even show you how you download it. Okay. Now, the other thing to realize on here is there's a lot of good information in here, as you probably guessed, but it's not really that big. When you look at it, this page is not that big. All right. But if you look over here, notice it has its own GitHub page. All right. And typically when something like this has its own GitHub page, you're not looking at it because you want to download this. You're looking at it because you want to go down below it and see what's there. All right. And sometimes it's going to look very similar to the stuff we saw on the other page. Sometimes there'll be more stuff out here. All right. I mean, I just wanted you to know that. All right. Okay, so always the first place to go look when you're about to download something and to get the documentation is to just go to the NPM page for it. All right. All right. Then let's go back into here. This is going to look even more simplistic at first than what we did yesterday, and it's all right. All right, so we're going to come in and we're going to put in 3 constants. We're going to say, you can type this in, please, into your app.js file. So const express equals require. And again, you can use single quotes here. You can use double quotes here. Use whatever you're comfortable using, but be consistent. App equals express. And we'll do our const port like we did yesterday, equal process.env.port, or for something different, we'll do 4,000 today. Doesn't matter. All right. So that's very similar to what we did yesterday. All right. Other than lines 1 and 2 are new, but line 3 is what we did yesterday. But yesterday when we did this, we'd already added HTTP, and we said http.createServer, and had a lot of other stuff in there. All right. We don't need that stuff anymore because Express is what's referred to as middleware. So it's something kind of between your program and the system that you're able to use to make your life easier, for lack of better words. All right. Yeah, you can. Sure. All right. So, like we did yesterday, I'm going to assume right now that we've got 3 pages. Okay? So I'm going to put in here, you can type this into app.get, and I'm going to say if I'm at the home page, all right, with all these, we're going to get a request and a response, and we're going to put in our arrow function. So we're going to do this that you see here. I don't know what happened there, but something did. All right. And we're going to do this, for lack of better words, we're going to do this 3 times. All right. So after I create the first one, and there's just 1 line of code I'm going to put in here, but I'm going to copy this 2 more times. You all with me? All right. So we're going to do a res.send. We are going to do the render later, so don't worry about it. So res.send. Welcome to the home page. All right, that's it. And then I'm going to copy that twice more. So I'm going to copy these 3 lines as soon as it'll let me. And the next time, this is going to be about, and this is going to be contact. And this one will say, welcome to the about page. And this one will say, welcome to the contact page. All right. Now, we don't have to do this, but we could have even put in, maybe it would, to make it stand out a little bit, we could put in H1 tags before each one of these. You don't have to do that. But just so there'll be a little bit bigger, etc., I'm going to put one on each one of these. All right. Then we want to say app.listen, our port again. Now, we could just do that. It would work. Everything would be hunky-dory. Except if we do it like this, in our window that's going to be running under Git Bash, you don't get any message back that the server's running. Did you all hear me? You get no message back. So typically, again, what most people do is they come in here and they put in an arrow function. And that arrow function just says console.log, backticks, server running on port, and then $ here and port. All right, like that. It says I'm missing something. Not sure what, so we'll find out in just a second. Let's see. First parenthesis expected. Probably wants, oh, I've got a parenthesis there, so I need one on the end. There. All right, sorry about that. So I want to run through, let me ask quickly. We just did those two lines for the first time, but I tried to explain to you what they were. All right, we were bringing in Express middleware, and we were creating an instance of Express. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. And the port is the same as yesterday. So what this should say is we're about to run this, and when we do, and we go out to localhost 4000, localhost 4000 colon, and we put in there home, it should come, or whatever, it should say welcome to the home page, or welcome to the about page, or welcome to the contact page. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So I'm going to do a file save. All right. And I'm going to go back into here. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. Node, remember, you can either say app.js, but JS is assumed, so you can leave it off. All right. Oh, that word port should have been in capital letters. Nobody caught that. And I didn't either. See that word port? That word port is this word port right here. That's the one on line 3. That's why it had to be in capital letters. That was my error. All right, so let's go back to here. And I'll clear, try to run it again. So I get server running on port 4000. That's good. All right, so far at least, everything's working the way it should. So I come in, open up a browser window. Got a lot of stuff up here. I'm just going to get rid of some of it. All right. And I'm going to come in and do my localhost colon 4000 and hit enter. And I get, mine's real blown up. All right. So mine was at 500%, but I'll leave it at 300. All right. Now you'll notice that I get that. All right. That's as if I had typed in a slash and hit enter. And you notice I get the same thing. All right. Now, if I go here and I put in a slash and I put in about and hit enter, now I get welcome to the about page. And if I do it one more time and I put in contact and hit enter, now I'm welcoming to the contact page. All right. Now, we're going to change this around quite a bit. But again, all we've done so far is we brought up 3 static pages. When I say static, they end with .html, meaning they don't have dynamic content in them. Does that make sense? All right. But again, so far, so good. As far as I can tell, at least, everything worked. All right. Trying to figure out my own notes here, but that's okay. All right. Let's take this and make it so it does something. All right, rather than just showing these 3 lines of code. All right. So what we'll do is we'll just take our home page, and I've got notes here, but I don't like it. I've been basing this off of something that I found online. I don't like it all the way they did it, so I'm going to try to redo it myself, and we'll see whether or not it works, okay? So I've got this, but I don't want it to just say, welcome to our homepage. I want it to do more than this. Are you with me? All right. Now, so in other words, I want to have several lines here. And one way that you can do that, you may or may not know, is I can come in and again put in a backtick here, and I can put in a backtick here. And then I can just hit enter, and now I can put this over multiple lines. This is the way you typically see it done. It's kind of like this. All right. Questions? Okay, so I'm going to add some more stuff in here. I'm going to put it in H2. And I'm going to say, what color is the sky on a sunny day? All right. Now, it's kind of what you'd expect. I'm not going to run this now because all I'd have would be another line underneath there that would have this. Okay, but I want this to be a little bit, at least a little bit interactive. All right, so I'm going to put in a form here. Remember, form starts with form. Okay, and I'm going to add some more stuff in just a minute, but I want you to look at something, if you would, please. Really, in the past, we've never been adding action, and we haven't really worried about method because we were working on the client side. Now we're working on the server side. All right. So I'm asking a question, and I'm going to say action equals \answer. We haven't even built that yet, but it's okay. And method equal post. All right. Now this is going to be a real simple form. It's not going to look nice. There's no CSS in it. I don't care. All right, so input type equals text, name equals, call it answer. I don't know, that's fine. And we'll put a button in here, and it'll say submit your answer. All right, we entered our form, we entered everything else. Now, just so you can see this, okay, I'm going to save here, and I'm going to go back, and I should be able to just did I not say? I might not have saved. So file, save. All right. Oh, you know what? You know what the problem is? Does anybody know what the problem is? I didn't run this as nodemon, did I? So I have to stop my server and start my server again. Remember that? Now, and that's good. Everybody does it. I do it all the time. I'm proving that. But let's go back to here. Let's bring up our package.json file again. All right. In our scripts, we're going to remove this test script because we don't need it. And we'll put in our own. We'll call it start. All right. And that one will be node app.js. All right. what does it like? I think that's a colon. There we go. And then we're going to have dev. All right. And there's nothing special about the word dev except that's the word most people use. And this will be nodemon app.js. And you should be able to put another comma there. It shouldn't really matter one way or the other. So what doesn't it like here? Let's see. It's that one. There we go. And let's see. Node app.js, nodemon app.js. I can put a comma there. No quick fixes available. Colon expected. Oh, how about that? There we go. Now, what doesn't it like? I don't think it does want a comma there, so. All right, so that's okay. So, I want to explain to you what those two things are, okay? Tomorrow or Thursday, when we build an app and we push it up to the internet, all right, where it'll be there for everybody to see, we'll be using a product called Heroku that's free. You'll have to sign up for an account, but it's free, all right? And when you do that, it needs a special file that's called a proc file. It's a procedure file that tells it what's the command to run this actual application. That's the command right there. All right. The other thing is so we can run nodemon. And remember, when we run nodemon, what we say in there is npm run followed by the name. So what we're going to say in there is npm space run space dev. All right. So I'm going to save this. I don't think there are any errors in there. I'm going to close my package.json. I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to stop the run. Try to stop the run. There we go. Clear my screen and do my npm run dev. If there are no errors, it shows you that it's restarting, and I get my message like I had before. Server running on port 4000. Exact same message I had before. Now, if I go back up here, all right, well, you can see I put one too many greater than signs in, but you can see I've got that. Okay, so in other words, this is the H1 we had there originally. Then we went back and we added an H2, which again, I'll get rid of that in just a second. Then we added a text box and we added a button, right? I mean, I can put anything I want in here and I can click submit and notice what it's saying. It's trying to go to that answer that we told it to go to. We have not written anything yet called answer. We'll do that in just a minute, all right? But just for completeness, I want to fix that, okay? So what's nice about nodemon, and you all should know this by now, is I can come back up here, and where is it? What color is the sky on a sunny day? There's the one I don't want. I remove that, I save, I go back, and refresh, and it's gone. All right, I didn't have to stop the server and start the server up again. And again, that may not sound like it's a real big thing, and I don't understand why, but what a lot of people do, or a lot of books and online lectures, they don't show you nodemon like I did until quite a way, and it's like, why don't you just have people do it the right way to begin with? All right, okay, so that's all fine. Let's go back to our server.js file. All right. Just so you know, these three things that you have right here, this app get with the slash, with the slash about, and with the slash contact, they're referred to collectively as routes. Those are three different get routes that we have right now. All right. Now, those are all gets, and if you remember the difference between a get and a post, what we've always looked at is that the get shows all that information up in the query string and the post doesn't. All right, but a get is basically when you are getting something. All All right, if you're sending something out, you're going to do a post. Why am I telling you that? Because what we're going to do right now is we're going to add another route down at the bottom here. Do not add it underneath this. You want to add it right above that. So right here, we're going to add another app, but it's going to be an app.post as opposed to an app.get. All right. And this will be slash, I don't know, what do we call that?
Answer?
Yeah, I think it is answer, but I want to, oops. We'll call it answer. Should be fine. So answer. All right. And again, what you have to get used to, and I should just be consistent. So if I've been using single quotes, I should keep using single quotes. Okay. All right. And again, we've got our request and we've got our response. Those must be in parens because there's more than one parameter. All right. We need that, and then hit enter. All right. And all we're going to put in here, we'll put, for now, we're going to change it in just a second. But res.send, thank you for submitting your form. All right. Now, I'm going to run this, and then we'll come back and talk about it, okay? So, I've just added in there, I've added a post route, okay? And it should come back if I click the button, if I did this right, it should come back after I click the button, and it should go and basically thank me for submitting the form. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So, whoops, I should come back here and do a file, save. All right, then come back here, refresh, and click submit. Okay. Now, there was nothing real magical about that, okay, but it worked, and that's a good thing. And if you notice, we can click our back button and go back to where we were, all right? Now, the key takeaway from this, though, the key takeaway is the fact that we're in charge now. If you go out to a website and you start entering stuff and you do something wrong or it doesn't understand, you have no control over what happens. You've either got to do it their way or it just is not going to work, period. All right? Well, here we are in charge. All right? So what if I came in here? You saw this already, how I got here, right? Okay. What if I go right there and just try to literally type that in now? I'm going to hit enter. What do you think is going to happen? I'm going to hit enter right now. All right. And if you do that, it's because it's a post, right? This is a post request. It's expecting a get route for that. We don't have a get route for that. We've got a post route for that, but not a get. All right. Now we can add one. We don't have to, but let's add one. I don't know if you've ever seen this kind of thing before, but I'm going to, right underneath this, I'll just put an app.get. Oops. An app.get. And again, we'll put in here /answer. All right. Again, it'll be our request response. Just get used to doing this because you're going to be doing it almost all the time. All right. And we'll just do a res.send. And we'll just say, why did you enter that into your address bar? Whatever. All right. And I did a save. So I do have a get now, but I never should be in the position where I'm getting anything from here. So in other words, if I go back to here and what we just saw right there, notice, why did you enter that in your address bar? That's what we're going to get. So I'm going to hit this. That's correct. But when I come in here now myself and hit enter, now I get that. All right. Now, is that really important? Well, one thing we could do if we wanted to, and we'll talk about this just not right now, is we could, if they hit enter, we could just redirect them back to where they started. Does that make sense? That would probably make more sense. For now, we're just going to leave it like this. All right, but there is a res.redirect too that we'll look at pretty quickly. All right. All right, what we want to be able to do is, and I think you'd agree with this, if you look up on the screen here, we want to be able to do something with this, right? I mean, if we're going to put a form in there, we want to be able to work with the form. Okay, that's nothing fantastic or nothing real brainy, all right? But in order to do that, we have to add something special that Express provides for us. It's another middleware function that it provides, all right? And basically what it says is we want to be able to take what we put into that form and put it into a format where the program can understand it, all right? So we want to do what's called encoding the values that we're putting in. So what we do is we go back here, right there, and we go back up near the top here. It doesn't really matter where you do it, but it should be near the top of your program before the app.get. All right, and let me just, you don't have to add these unless you want to, but I'm going to put in here, bring in Express middleware. Again, you don't have to put this in. I'm not turning this in anyway, so instantiate an instance. How about an Express instance? All right. Set port, and we'll come down here and I'll put in another one right here. All right. That'll say add Express middleware form URL encoding. Okay. And here's the line. It's app dot, notice if I put in a U, one of the things that's up there is use. That's how you bring these in. So it's app.use, and it's a little bit ugly. All right. It's express.url encoded. And what you have to do then is you have to let it know, because it's expecting a JSON object called extended. And it doesn't really appear, because just for the heck of it, most books show this as being false, but I put it as true, and it didn't change anything. But most books that I've looked at, most presentations, etc., that I've seen, all right, this is going to allow us, again, to use the ability to take what's in that form, and it's going to allow us to grab what's in that text. All right, what's in that text area. All right. Now let's see. So right now, whoops, we've got our post for our answer, and all this is saying right now is thank you for submitting the form. Well, that's not really saying very much, okay? So for the first time, we're going to use the REQ. You may or may not remember from yesterday, that was great, and it still is, because we've never used it. All right, but let me put in, it's about 4 or 5 lines of code. Let me put them all in, and then we'll go through all of them. What do we call it? Sorry. Let's see. Answer. We call them both answer. That's not a great thing to do, but it should work. It should still work. If it doesn't, you're going to know it when I know it. Request.body.answer equal blue, right? Okay, so if it's blue, we'll do a res.send You are correct. Else, res.send, you are incorrect. Please try again. All right. Now, in English, what this should do, all right, is it should look at what answer we put in there. So whatever we type into that text box, if what we type into that text box is the word blue, it should come back, and instead of saying like it did before, thanks for submitting the form, it should say you are correct. If we put in something other than blue, it should say you are incorrect, please try again. Does what's going on here, it's fairly simple logic. Does it make sense to everybody? All right, I'm going to do a file save. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to refresh the page, and I'm going to put in here blue. And I'm going to hit enter. You are correct. Now, even though that worked, it's not a problem, but for lack of better words, I'll use that. Look at the screen if you would. What if I put in this? Yes, because it's looking for an exact match. So let's fix that. We'll go back into our function here. All right, and we'll say request.body.answer dot, remember the trim function? Dot to uppercase. We could use to lowercase, but what the heck. Now it should handle any kind of casing that we have in there. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to save this, go back again, refresh the screen again. All right. And notice if I do put in orange, you're incorrect, please try again. But now if I put in lowercase blue, it's correct. If I mix the case, it's correct. If I put it all in uppercase, it's correct. And if I have it even in a weird case, it's correct. All right. Now, the bottom line, the takeaway from that is never expect that if you tell somebody to type it in and you tell them exactly what to do, they're going to do it. All right. Because it's just not, probably at least, it's probably not going to happen. All right. People are people. You know, and it's just like the lady who was across from me. She sent me an email and she told me that she's going to be missing for a couple days next week. And I wrote back and I said, okay, I'll see you on Wednesday. Because I never read the part that said next week. All right. All right. So I've got a couple notes here, and I want to go to this page. You don't have to go to it, but I'd like you to just take a look at what's in here. This is a Stack Overflow page. Hopefully I typed that in correctly. I did. Oh. This is just, I just literally Googled what is, you know, what we had to put in here, this. I grabbed this and I put it into Google and I said, what is Node? And I pasted that in. Does that make sense? All right. And then I just went, look, this looked pretty decent. And it said, here's an explanation. You can read that. Or you can read it now, you can read it later. It doesn't matter, okay? Now, It says you do not need these, just put them in anyway. What most people will tell you with this stuff is it's what's referred to as boilerplate code. Templated code, something like that. It's stuff that no one is even really that sure why they need it, but you better put it in there just in case you do, type of an idea. So again, the idea behind this is we put in that line of code so that Express would be able to parse. Now, we put a real simple form with one field in it. You know that most forms are much more complex than that. All right? But if you want to be able to parse out every single field that's in your form, that's why you use that. All right? All right. Now, there's some stuff in here. Like I said, I wrote some notes, and it's pretty detailed, but I don't want, some of it I want to go through, and some of it I'm not that concerned with right now. We'll hit it all, but I'm just not that concerned with it right now. All right, so let's see. All right, now you may or may not agree with this, but imagine that we had 20, 30 or more pages. You with me? All right, each one of these really pretty much is a page. Wouldn't you agree with that? This starts getting really big really fast. And this is our main file, our app.js. We don't really want it to get that big. So what we're going to do is we're going to move a bunch of that stuff in just a minute. So I'm going to show you 3 different packages that are used, and we're going to use 2 of them, only one today, but we're going to use another one fairly quickly because I think it's even easier to use than the one that we're going to use today. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm again going to go back to npmjs.com, and first I'm going to type in here pug, P-U-G, and hit enter. And again, you can tell the first thing that comes up is pug. Notice what it says, a clean white space sensitive template engine for writing HTML. All right, so I'm going to click on it. And that's the mascot. This used to be called Jade, and it's now called Pug. The reason I'm telling you that is you'll still see a lot of it out there as Jade. All right. This is one templating engine that you can use. All right. I've used it once. I didn't like it at all, but I wanted to show you the big three pretty much. All right. So that's one of them. The second one, and we're going to use this, we're just not going to use it right now, all right? And that is, I'm going to come back here, and again, instead of pug, I'm going to search for handlebars. All right? And when you create handlebars, just so you all know what handlebars on a bike are, right? It's not the ones. It's handlebars like a mustache. So when you end up creating handlebars files, there'll be mustache files. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go here. Notice Handlebar provides the power necessary to let you build some semantic templates effectively with no frustration. There's a handlebars and there's an express handlebars. All right. We could use either one. It doesn't matter. In fact, the one we're probably going to use most often is express handlebars. Notice the message here. A handlebars view engine for express, which doesn't suck. So in other words, somebody took the open source code that was out there for this and they added on to it. Does that make sense? That's why things like NPM work, because somebody comes up with an idea and somebody else says, you know what, I can make that even better. All right. Now this summer, I'm just telling you this because there's a big tie in here. This summer, I think I told you, I taught 2 classes for the middle schoolers. First one I taught was a Scratch programming class. And in Scratch, you put yourself, if you want to, you can put your stuff right out there onto the internet, and somebody can immediately click that. And when they do, what comes up is a button that says remix. And when you do that, you get a copy of it. And then you can make changes to it, and then you can upload it. In other words, same kind of thing here. So Express Handlebars is a better version of Handlebars. Okay? Now, the one that we're going to use now, because it's probably the easiest, all right, and that one is called EJS. And why is that one the easiest? It's the easiest because EJS, the JS stands for JavaScript. All right, and the E stands for embedded JavaScript templates. And again, you'll notice 8 million downloads last week. All right, what I got right here. Okay, this is how you install it. We're going to do that in just a minute. Again, it's got a GitHub page. Now, the reason that this is important, please look before we do an install or anything, because we're going to take a break in a couple minutes. Notice where it says control flows under the features there. If you want to put JavaScript code inside of your HTML file, you put, anytime you want to put in a JavaScript statement, you put it inside of those tags. If you don't want to do any executable JavaScript, but you want to print something out using JavaScript, the first tag has got an equal sign before it. We're not going to worry about the raw output right now. But these are the two biggies, so to speak, just so you know. All right? So, we're going to take a break in just a second, but before we do, let's bring this in. All right? What do I mean? So again, come over to here. Our server's running. Notice how many times it's done restarts already. Now I can either open a new instance of my server, or I can stop this one. Since I'm adding a new package to my program, I'm going to stop the server. I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to start the server up again. So I'm going to do a Control-C to stop the server, clear the screen, and type in npm EJS. Didn't take very long. Okay. Added 9 packages, so there was a lot of the dependencies I think were in there already from Express. All right, but one thing, and I didn't show you this before, it's no big deal, but going back, come on, where is it? There it is. To node modules, now there should be a folder in here that's called EJS. There it is. That was not in there before. All right. And again, because we're taking a break in just literally 1 second, but they show you how to use it in here. So when you're starting to go through this and you want to learn how to do things, I spend tons of time on this site. If it's like, wow, is there a package that does that? I'll start going to Google to see if there's a package that does it. If I find one that does it or that's close, then I go out to npmjs.com and start looking through it. All right, it's 2:58. Let's come back at 10 after 3.